All right, and we're back now. So we're at part two of setting up random fighters that have random altitude, random fighter planes, random start position, and even a random start time. When we last were here, we were setting up all the object links and on spawn report links to these different waypoints. However, these waypoints and these spawners don't have randomized altitudes. So that's what we're going to do now. So first we're going to go to our spawners. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually set the Y value right here. And this will set up the altitude at which the plane spawns. So maybe for our first one, it spawns at maybe 5,000 meters. Maybe our second one spawns at 3,500. Maybe we randomly have one spawn really low at like 500 meters, and then maybe one spawns in at I don't know, 1,000 meters or something like that. Okay, and then we go through each one of these, and we can set it up to whatever altitude we want. 4,500. Maybe this one's 2,000. Maybe this one is 1,500. We could do another 5,000 here. And we can just keep going through. Maybe this is 4,000 and this one is 4,000. Maybe we get two 4,000s, right? This one's 3,000. Maybe this one's 1,500. And you could set it up to whatever you want, right? It does not matter. So we'll do 1,200 for this one. Maybe 4,900. Maybe this one's 4,000. And maybe this one's 2,000. All right. So that looks good. Now, what we want to do is say once it spawns in and it's going to this particular waypoint, we kind of want the waypoint and the trigger spawn to be the same altitude. So this one's 5,000. So we need to make this one 5,000 too. All right, and then this one is what, 3,500, and this one's 3,500. And then this one is what, 500. Oh, really low. So 500, and this one's 1,000. And 1,000, and so on, right? We got to do it for each one of these. 4,500. As you can see, as we're adding this randomness to it, our project is getting big, right? And that's just kind of the nature of the beast. The players will never see this. The players will only see one plane spawn in at a random location, right? Wherever we move these spawners at a random altitude and move to a random, well, not to a random waypoint, but to the same waypoint here that we're setting up. That one's 4,000 as well. Okay, 4,000. Oops. And technically, we don't have to set the waypoint and the spawner at the same, but it's just easier for the AI to handle stuff. Like if we say, hey, be at 1,000 here, like let's say this one, what is it, 1,200, and we set this one at 5,000, then the AI is going to do everything it possibly can to climb up to that altitude, right? And that's not necessarily what we want to happen. We want the players to see this AI kind of low, or if it's high in the air or whatever, and coming in at that altitude, right? And not and at speed, not at like, oh, this AI's plane is trying to climb. Now, of course, if that's what you want for your mission, to have the plane climb or dive or whatever, by all means, adjust it how you see fit. All right, so now that the waypoints are set for their particular altitude, the next thing you want to do is say, okay, you've made it to this area. I want you to start engaging the players. So we're going to need an attack MCU. So we're going to go to MCUs again, and we're going to do this attack area. And I am going to change our priority to absolutely high. All right. And then I'm also going to say attack air targets. And we can set the attack area to whatever we want, but I typically set it to like 5,000. And I want the AI to just do it forever. All right, we're going to set up some logic to say, hey, AI, if you run into problems like you get shot down or you run out of ammo or something like that, sure, tuck tail and run. But if the player's in this area, you're going to fight them to the death. And I think that's kind of more engaging and more fun than saying, oh, only fight them for 3 minutes and then run away. All right. The player's going to be like, why is this plane turning around? Oh, it's been 3 minutes. All right. So we don't want that to happen. All right, so first thing we need to do is say, once you get to this waypoint, pulse this attack area. And I did that with Shift T, by the way, Shift T, okay? And don't forget to save if you haven't saved yet. And then we need to say, okay, which plane is going to get commanded by this attack area MCU? And in this case, it's going to be R190. And I did that object link with Shift O, Shift O. And so now, once the 190 gets to one of these 4 waypoints, whichever their altitude is, then it'll start looking for enemies in this attack area. So we need to do this 3 more times. So I'll duplicate it. And this one will get an object link there. This one's going to get an object link to that guy. And this will get an object link to that guy. And then what is going to activate this attack area is when the plane gets to this waypoint. What's going to activate this one? When this plane gets to that waypoint. And this plane gets to that waypoint. Just like that, right? Okay, so now it's pretty much set. The only thing we need to change now is probably these attack areas. I am going to, what is the highest one? I think it's 4,900 for this guy. Yeah, so we'll say, do like 4,000 across the board actually for all of these. Now, I'm not 100% certain if the attack area height is that important. I could be wrong about that. I don't know, but I do know for certain that the attack area width, right, the radius or diameter, sorry, is important. So if the players are outside of the radius, the AI will never attack them. But if they are, then they will go for it. Okay, so now now that we have pretty much logic set up, right? So it's going to get this input from this gate. It's going to randomly choose a slight delay, either 1 second, 30, a minute, or a minute and a half. And then it's going to randomly choose one of these 4 planes, whichever 4 planes we want here. We need to make one other change. So actually, and then it's going to randomly spawn one of these 4 planes at these locations. But we made a mistake here for these spawners. So let's go into these spawners. So I have them all selected. And we need to say spawn at me. That's very important. If you don't have spawn at me, then, then it's not going to spawn at the spawner and you're going to have a lot of problems. All right, so then once the plane is spawned in at one of those 16 different spawners, then it's going to move to one of these 16 different waypoints. Once it gets to that waypoint, then it will start looking for enemy planes, and in our case, it's players. But we need to have some edge cases. And when I mean edge cases, I mean like what happens when the plane gets shot down? What happens when the plane runs out of ammo? Stuff like that. So first, let's add a gateway to each. We'll have one for each of these planes, but a gateway that says, hey, if something bad happens to this plane, make this plane do something, whatever it is. So let's look at our 190, and we're going to right click it, go to our object link, and we're going to say, okay, so if let's see, if it's damaged, maybe, let's see, oh yeah, we'll do on damaged. So you can see we have like a purple thing to our timer there, and then we'll do if it runs out of ammo. So let's see, bingo main machine guns. That's fine by me. And you can see it's still only like one purple link, but if we go into the advanced properties, so I'm going to double click this guy, you can see I have on damaged event here and on bingo main machine guns, and they're both going to that same 280 timer, ID 280. See? Okay, so that looks good. Let's see, is there any other thing on destroyed? If it gets destroyed, it gets destroyed, right? Oh, how about on bingo fuel if it runs out of fuel? So if these things happen, maybe the plane tucks tails and runs, right? So we need another waypoint, and I'm going to just make a random waypoint way out in space. And we'll rename this to run away waypoint. And this can actually be for all of our planes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Shift O, and I'm going to object link all of them, because every single one of these planes are going to run. Remember, only one plane is going to be spawned in. Only one plane, one location, one waypoint, one attack area out of 16 possible locations, 16 possible waypoints, and 4 different attack areas. Okay. All right, so my point is that when all the planes get damaged or all the planes get destroyed, then they're going to all tuck tail and run to this runaway waypoint. All right, so we need to do the same thing for the other three. So I'm going to select all other three here. We're going to do the same thing. Object link. We're going to say when it's bingo main guns, when it's let's see, when it gets damaged on damage, and the on damage threshold right now is 50% for all these guys. And I'll show you that in just a second. Let's see. So on damage, on bingo fuel, right? Bingo fuel target. That looks good. Okay, so we'll go back into just one of them. And so you can see right here, where is it at? Somewhere in here, it's 50% damage. Oh, here it's damage threshold, damage report 50%. So this on damage will only happen when the plane is 50% damage, right? And when it's 50% damage, it is going to tuck tail and run to this particular waypoint. Now, let's say, so we got it all set here. Let's say that these planes run and they make it to this waypoint. And actually 2,000 meters, that looks good. We're going to give them that waypoint, we're going to give high priority. They're just going to tuck tail and run. Oh, and our speed is really low. Actually, we probably need to go to all of our waypoints and adjust the speed. That's fine. So we'll change the speed to, I don't know, 900 or something. I don't think it can go that fast, but it doesn't matter. And our area will say 200 meters radius. That looks good to me. Now, for these other waypoints, before I get into the other stuff, let's go back to all these other waypoints. We didn't change the speed. Medium is fine. Area, I typically do about 200. Speed, we'll just make it 500 for now. Just make them really fast. Doesn't matter. Okay, so that's set. Let's save if we haven't saved. Okay, let's go back to our runaway waypoint. All right, so high priority means that no matter what, it is going to tuck tail and run. If it's getting shot at, he's still going to run away. Area 200 is fine. Speed, I don't think it's going to be able to do 900. Let's do 500 again. Sorry. All right. So now let's say that our AI plane makes it to this waypoint. Now what happens? What happens when it gets there? Now typically the plane would land, right? In real life, the plane will land and probably go in for repairs and stuff like that. But this is the game, right? Players are either going to chase this plane all the way to Egypt and back, or they're going to dismiss it and say, okay, that plane's running away. We're hoping that the players are going to say that plane is running away. If that's the case, then we want to sort of get rid of this plane, just make it go away. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a delete, and we're going to have a slight timer. And so these are all MCUs coming from a MCU group here. And our delete is just going to delete whichever plane is active at the time. So we're going to go ahead and give an object link to each one of these planes, because remember, only one plane is going to be active at a time. And then our timer, I'm going to give it like maybe 3 minutes. So it's going to come to this waypoint, and then it'll just circle for 3 minutes. And after, so I'll make sure it's 3 minutes here. After 3 minutes, then we'll delete it. Okay. So how can we make this happen? So how does this work? So what we need to do is plane enters this yellow circle. It'll pulse our 3-minute MCU, and then that will pulse our trigger delete, and then that trigger delete will delete whichever plane is active. Remember, these planes are all deactivated. If we go back to them, you can see they're all deactivated by default. The only thing that activates them is the spawner. Right, the spawner. So only one plane active, gets deleted, looks good. Okay, so what are we missing? I think that's it, right? We got our input, whatever that input is. We have our randomized time. So actually, I selected all these. I'm gonna right click it. We'll group it. And we'll say, we'll name this to randomize the time. And then this is randomly, oh my gosh, randomly selecting one of the planes and one of the spawn points. So we're going to group this up, see, randomize spawn. That's fine by me. Let's look at my logic here. So randomize the start position, randomize the start time. We got that. Randomize altitude. We definitely did that. Randomize the plane. Oh, and it's mission based. So we can talk about that in just a second. So let's add our this logic right here is like our um, edge cases. So we're going to group these up and we're going to call this edge cases. And this is sort of like where the plane runs away to. These are our planes. So, and we can put these anywhere, right? Because our these spawners are what determine what plane spawns in and where it spawns in. And if we really want to be on top of our game here, we can say that these four are FW190D9 spawners. And it is a good idea to name your stuff. So what do we got here? This is the G4. So BF109 G4 spawners. And what is this one? G6 slate. So BF109 G6 slate. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I am going to do, well, we'll just leave it as 109 G6 slate spawners. And the reason I really don't like the name of the plane because I want to be able to allow the player to change or the designer to change the name of the plane, but maybe they'll be able to also change the name of the spawners as well, right? Okay, and then um, we could also rename these as well. You know what? I'm not going to rename these. We're just going to leave them how it is. So the idea is that we could either we can have these all stacked on top of each other like this, and so then it just randomly chooses the altitude and not necessarily the location. Or if we want, we can totally 100% have these wherever we want. Remember I was talking about having planes coming in from the north, south, east, or west? Well, we can do that too. So we can say, this guy comes in from the north, maybe this one comes in from the south, and this one comes in from the east. And I am going to grab all these guys and bring them more to the dark section here. So we can do the same thing for our 109 here, right? Western, this one goes to the south, this one goes to the east, and so on and so forth. And so the idea here is that something will trigger this off. Oops, did I put too many up here in the north? I think I did. And when that triggers it off, these guys will spawn in. And they will either come in from the south. And actually we'll put all these in the center. And then this, like that, and oops, this goes to the south. And hopefully you can see kind of what I'm doing here, where I'm saying, hey, they come in from one direction, they're gonna float to one of these waypoints, and then when they get to the waypoint, they're going to start looking for the players. And because the waypoints are set to medium, they will do their best to fly to that location, but if they spot the player, then they're going to engage the player even if it's at medium. All right, so we'll do this. Really? There we go. And this is our western and our eastern and our southern. Right, but no matter what, the planes will meet sort of in the center, and they're going to look in this big radius for our players. All right, so we do have we can make this dogfight based. So remember we were talking about making it dogfight based, and we can make it mission based. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop this video. We're almost at 20 minutes now, and we'll talk about how to add an input to this to make this big logic fire off.